how many more sponsors are going to leave New Jeans? It looks like Chanel is the latest brand that just took their clackety $1,000 heels and did an about face and did a quiet French goodbye to their former ambassador, it seems, Minji of New Jeans. And a lot of netizens have been speculating because there's no official announcement, and usually on these brand ambassadorships, it's more of like a petering out, like you're not renewed. Jennie from Blackpink, oh, she has been renewed and renewed again since 2018. But oh, how the tables have turned. New Jeans mama thought that she was going to scheme and plot against BTS and ruin them while they were vulnerable, serving in the military. Well, J-Hope, HYBE, just slam dunked it over at Louis Vuitton, front row seats, really looking good there. And that's what you call when a sponsor keeps the door open for you while you're out serving your country. Well, New Jeans mama thought all of her scheming would keep a lot of the ads over in advertising land, but all she is left with is a lot of Advil for her and all of the other New Jeans mamas.
I've got a headache this big.
So let's go over the latest luxury brand that has turned quiet luxury into quiet quitting, New Jeans. So yes, it appears that Chanel has quietly ended Minji's ambassadorship. Earlier this month, fans had noticed that she had been removed from the Chanel Korea beauty website on Naver and also on the official Chanel Korea website. And so I went through that website to go look for her. I clicked through the bags, the shoes, the bracelets, the fine jewelry, high jewelry, skincare, and I saw so many faces that did not belong to Minji in the Chanel Korea website. Now, they love a Tilda Swinton in Korea. I'll tell you that. She might be a global brand ambassador, but they love her in Korea and especially in Chanel because you know why? She has resting Korea face, okay? She is just as, I think she's Scottish. She is just as Scottish can be, but sometimes when she rests her face, she looks Korean, okay? Or like, I don't know, her vibe sometimes goes in and out to Korea land. And to be fair, I did find Minji. She was in the back dregs of the HTML of the skincare page, but it was kind of a real weird scroll. It was like hidden behind two other pictures of other models. And when you scroll down, her face popped up like you know, you couldn't, like she was struggling. Okay. Like she was like behind in the crowd. She was trying to make her way to the front. And it felt like it was like somewhat covering the bases. Like the brand ambassadorship is essentially not renewed, but if everything goes well with ADOR and the girls come back and everything gets back to normal, they can basically say, Chanel can say like, oh no, she was still, you know, on the website. Here, look at the code. She was still sort of on the website. We would love to renew our brand ambassadorship with her. However, that is not clear at this moment, and it is not as clear as Jennie. There is no doubt about the renewal of the brand ambassadorship with Jennie of Blackpink. She just in March had the new bag that she was being the ambassador of, the Chanel 25 bag with Dua Lipa. It was like a dual global brand thingamabob. And so that is not very, you know, up in the air at all. What is up in the air is like, what is going on with these brand ambassadorships? We'll also talk about Danielle's visit to her brand ambassadorship duties over in Japan for Omega watches. And that was with ADOR staff everybody has been confirming. And so is it like one of these situations where they did renew, or is it like one of those like subscriptions that even if you cancel, like if you bought the annual plan, you don't get a refund prorated, you got to wait until the end of it to work out? So did the brands have to, like, with Omega watches, are they just saying like, well, we're not on a month to month? Moving forward, these brands, they should go on the month to month with them New Jeans girls if they do ever go back, because you never know what kind of breach of contract situation will pop up within that 1 year. But let's get back to Chanel, because, a lot of these brands and these brand ambassadorships, even if you might not be shopping at Chanel or Omega or Louis Vuitton, they're very important in this K-pop economy. Because when's the last time you spent $6 listening to songs or buying music of your favorite artist, but they only need a few of you to drop $6,000 on a Chanel bag for that then sponsorship money to go back to the K-pop artist so that they can then create this music for you all. And so with Chanel, was Minji a good fit? I actually think so. I think it's kind of fun to see, especially if there's a K-pop group with, many people and each individual member gets a different luxury brand. It really does have a sense of being a lot more like a personality statement for that member and that brand. And when there's alignment, I think it's really cool. And so I think, to be fair, Minji was a good Chanel face. Chanel seems to work well with like the girls with just long, straight hair, minimal, like it's like the maximalist minimal. And so like they just kind of put on the Chanel and then a little bit of like, kind of a fresh, clean makeup situation that's still a little bit dramatic, and it's not a frizzy mess, and it tends to, I think, work well when the women who are on a mission are wearing Chanel. So if you are wearing Chanel as a woman, it actually helps, I think, because what I noticed is that the Chanel girl is a working girl, not necessarily a 9-to-5 working girl or a 5-to-9 working girl, but a woman that is a little bit on a mission. She's not there that night, I think, to be like a total princess. It's like Chanel seems to look really good on women who are sort of actually a little bit tired, and especially tired of your BS before you even say it and before it even comes out of your mouth, and that they don't really want to be at this gala event, this social gathering, but they're putting in the effort because they're on a mission. They have an agenda. They got to talk to people. They got to influence people. They got to work out a deal or something. That kind of working woman, when she puts on her Chanel, it's like her body armor, and she's out there to go get some things done. So it's a little bit weird then, I think, more so for Chanel, if you put like a very young model in Chanel and God forbid, I don't know, if like your kid is playing dress up in Chanel, it seems a little bit odd. It's sort of like looking at a 12-year-old driving a car. Whereas like some of these frou-frou designers that like, make those ball gowns, and if a little kid wears it, it sort of looks like they're in a princess fantasy. So Minji was a bit young, but I could see her really mature and develop into that real Chanel girl, the way that I think Jennie really has developed into that real Chanel girl. Now, yes, Jennie, we're talking about her as, the global pop icon of Blackpink. Yes, she is amazing and she has done a lot and accomplished a lot, but yes, there is that kind of trailing reputation of her being a bit lazy, especially on stage. But when it comes to Chanel, she ain't lazy about nothing. And so I think she looks really good there. So I'm not particularly surprised that Chanel dropped Minji amidst all of the legal battles and the downfall of the brand value of New Jeans, but also because Minji did not embody the spirit of that Chanel girl who calls the shots and doesn't just read off of an iPad that is, has a chat box open probably with New Jeans Mama just feeding her the lines to say. A Chanel girl thinks for herself and makes things happen. So typically these luxury house ambassador contracts span 1 year, renewable, and a lot of them are quite lucrative, 6 figures, 7 figures, it seems. And so probably Minji was pulling in at least 6 figures to the group. But Chanel comes at a time when there's a lot of other advertisers that are leaving the New Jeans land. Apple went to aespa. Lotte Pepero went to Stray Kids. Coca-Cola is now at NMIX. Nike went to Meow. I don't know what, I guess they didn't meow enough when we saw them pictures of like some of the New Jeans girls out at a pub with some like Nike Korea execs. Shinhan Bank, no more. Stonehenge, no more. Seoul City, it went to Hearts. And then of course now we're talking about Chanel. So what is it about Minji and New Jeans that couldn't do it like Jennie, G-Dragon, Ko Yoon-jung? They were at the January Chanel Haute Couture show in Paris, and they really put a really good showing over there. And then, as I said, in March, a couple months ago, Jennie starred alongside Dua Lipa in Chanel's new campaign for the Chanel 25 bag. And apparently this bag is so like the it bag, or at least they're trying to make it. And it looks pretty good. It looks like it was a bag designed with a lot of consumer feedback because, dare I say, it seems like practical at the same time as being fashionable. But look, it comes in 3 sizes, okay? Small, medium, large. The small starts at $6,000 in the US, so it might be a little bit cheaper at duty free around the world, or I mean, probably around the same price. Medium, $6,400, large, $7,300, but it also depends on what kind of material you choose. And so, of course, there's the grained calf skin and soft tweed, but there's also washed denim. And I think they designed this bag with Minji in mind so that she can sell it as, the newest New Jeans for Chanel. But everything went, and I think they're gonna have to dig out their Rolodex, before they used Google Contacts and flip through and try to find Jessica Simpson's number and try maybe bring her to promote the bag, because the Y2K vibes that New Jeans was also pulling. Well, get the OG Y2K vibes of Jessica Simpson with, remember she was wearing that gaudy denim Louis Vuitton bag? Well, now maybe she can, do a new thing with the Chanel bag. So now let's move on to Danielle and her sponsorship with Omega Watches and her appearance at an Omega watch launch party for a brand new but yet old watch to the world. And it surprised a lot of people because they're like, oh, whoa, this is actually a situation where Danielle is doing a brand sponsorship event. I mean, we're not even talking about music, but okay, it's as close as we can get. That was also in coordination with ADOR, and apparently all of this had been pre-planned. So that's what I'm saying. You try to cancel that annual membership or subscription, read the fine print to see if you could get it prorated, or you just gotta stick it to the end. And so she went to Kyoto, Japan, and it was the launch of the Aqua Terra 30mm watch. And remember when she showed up in the Omega ad during the time of contention that was, really controversial, like was it independent activity or not? And it seemed like it was not necessarily independent activity, and it seems like with this whole Omega thing now, it is still in coordination with ADOR. But I was just like, Omega, I mean, you'll take what you can get, but Omega still seems a little bit odd. Like, it is not, I don't think, a very good good brand alignment with New Jeans as a whole, and even any of the members in New Jeans, because it's such a male brand. It's like 007 James Bond wears it.
Does it do anything? It tells the time.
They wear it to space. It has a very like a race car driver, George Clooney type of image to it. And its target audience is a lot of these like middle-aged guys, probably the bunny uncles. And that's when I said, oh, it makes sense if the target market is not actually the women, but the bunny uncles. Well, we'll get into that. Well, what did Danielle wear? Because y'all want to know. She wore this black dress that was off the shoulder, but looked like she was kind of, strapped in, ready to go for her 5150. And then she had this blonde bob hair, which I think it looked like a wig, okay? You don't want to get around any birthday candles in that, Temu dress or that wig because, there could have been a conflagration. So she did look good. I think she looked good. And in the campaign that she's in with the other women that were there for this Omega event that was targeting the female market with the smaller version of their men's watch, I think she looked the best in that commercial. And it looked good, but it was given a little bit like wannabe Anna Wintour. And Anna Wintour, I mean, bless her heart, but she has just resigned from being editor-in-chief of Vogue for 37 years. Nobody thought this day would come. It's sort of like, is it Nancy Pelosi gonna quit first or Anna Wintour gonna quit first? Well, Anna Wintour probably just wanted to just throw off that wig for the last time after last month's Met Gala, especially after that, I had no idea, a hideous accident from the grande dame of fashion. She had a weird, like, blood-like looking stain on her dress. Granted, it was tiny, but it was a custom-made Louis Vuitton gown for her for the Met Gala, which is her most important event of the year. And she is like, the ice queen, empress, and, really strict about everything. And for her to show up to her fashion gala with the stain on her dress, that's like seeing Paula Deen dip her finger into the spaghetti sauce.
You ready? Yes, have a taste.
That is just a huge no-no. So she probably, Anna Wintour, just like, I'm throwing off this wig, it's going on to eBay. And then Danielle, I don't know, she was probably online shopping. She picked up some wigs, and then she went over to Temu and picked up the dress. And then now she went to Japan to do the Omega event. So she appeared alongside ADOR staff and bodyguards. So this is her first public appearance with ADOR and HYBE since all of this legal battle has started. So in some ways, she deserves some credit for that, but it's still too early to really assess whether this is actually going to be a title shift from the New Jeans members, because, they really declared like they could never, ever publicly stated go back to ADOR or HYBE. They are 100,000% loyal to Minji, except for, I guess, when it comes to a watch sponsorship. So let's talk about this watch, okay? This is why it's a little bit odd, because the name of the campaign was My Little Secret. What kind of, first of all, I don't know what that means. All, the whispers, the secrets, that's just like such a schoolgirl type of thing, but it was in a lot of New Jeans videos, but it just doesn't seem to match. And yes, they argue that My Little Secret is an expression about quiet luxury, so nobody else needs to know about your luxury, self-expression, and craftsmanship. Now, yes, there are a lot of women who embrace and look great in quiet luxury. However, spending at least $6,000 on a watch is not necessarily an area where I think most women want to be quiet luxury to the point where it looks like they are wearing a man's watch by mistake. The Aqua Terra is a men's watch originally that came in a a variety of big sizes, and it was released in 2002. The most popular size is 41 millimeters, and it's a great watch for men who are looking for a luxury watch that is like an everyday watch that can go from like sports to work to evening. It's just a nice all-arounder. That is really good for a guy. I don't know if a woman really wants to have an all-arounder watch like that also really came from a men's watch. Sometimes there are, trends about, girls wearing like men's style watches, but if you look at some of the finishing and the details, it still has a little bit more of a sparkle to it that feminizes it a little bit more. They try to feminize it with making it smaller, like 30 millimeters, and then putting some like, unique flavors like purple and green. But I'll tell you what I think the real message is behind my little secret, because what the hell is that supposed to mean? They say it's quiet luxury, but you know what? Let's be frank. I think it is more about let's be quiet about getting a timepiece for my side piece. So that if the side piece accidentally leaves the watch at the guy's house and the wife or the girlfriend stumbles upon it, he could just say, oh, it's my watch, because it looks like a men's watch. But it's a little bit too small to be a men's watch, but it looks like a men's watch. And he could just say like, oh, well, this is the new Harry Styles or Timothy Chalamet pearls and small watch trend that I'm trying. Oh, no. No real man wears a watch that small. It looks absolutely ridiculous. Yes, you get a watch that's more appropriate to the size of your wrist, and if you have a smaller wrist, you get a smaller one, but you do not go down to like 30 millimeters for that kind of money. It is a timepiece for the thought who was just an afterthought of the man who had to go to Omega for probably some service or repair or a little polish on his Omega, couldn't even be bothered to go next door to Cartier, and just decided to get his side piece, a timepiece, in 30 millimeter size. Okay, so the latest fashion brand sponsorship ambassador news out of the HYBE empire was J-Hope's appearance front row at the Louis Vuitton runway show held this week in Paris. Beyonce, Jay-Z, Bradley Cooper, Jackson Wang was there as well. And even Kongyu, Mr. Squid Game's recruiter salesman, the guy that throws down the paper. Well, he did the most there, and he looked really good in this chic brown check suit, and he had a pale pink tie, silver brooch, chain belt, and a pink and white LV Speedy bag. Apparently that Speedy bag is also a classic bag that is very timeless in the Louis Vuitton universe, and I had no idea, but Pharrell Williams, the musician, has been leading Louis Vuitton's menswear like as the creative director for years. It was like either 2022 or 2023. He took the role of creative director of Louis Vuitton's menswear. I had no idea. So this was a big fashion event for the menswear line. And he also, Pharrell, released a new song in a Bollywood style, and apparently the fashion was a little bit like Indian fabrics, and so it all ties in together. I thought it was pretty cool, and it really was a status-defining moment. Not that J-Hope chases that kind of stuff, but he was in the front row, and then at the end when Pharrell, who as the designer is coming out to give his bow and greet the important guests, he went to the front row. The first person he shook hands with was J-Hope, and then you can see the other Thai celebrity who was in the front row, but a little bit to the other side, was just like, hey, I got forgotten. and then Pharrell went down the line for a couple more people, but definitely J-Hope was among the VIP. So congrats to J-Hope. It looks like the comeback of BTS individually and as a group is going quite well, just very organically. It looks like things are humming along with probably a lot of work behind the scenes over at HYBE, but it feels like they're doing a lot in their warm-up phase to get really back into the K-pop industry than a lot of people do when they are just trying to hustle at their 1000%. So thank goodness that New Jeans Mama could not destroy BTS despite her greatest efforts, and it looks like karma has also come back to her on the runway. Poor Minji. No more Chanel. She gotta, stick to the jeans. She got some new ones, doesn't she? Or she can probably go to Mexico City and find the original. All right, guys, what do you think? Put your comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.